Hey, everybody. This is Chelsea from Cache Valley Counseling, and you are listening to the Puzzle of Us podcast. Today, we are talking about getting some alone time in your relationship and whether or not it's a good thing and how to best make sure that you are getting the most out of the me time in your relationship. So this episode is kind of inspired by lots of people sort of asking me how I manage it all, how I balance life out, being a mom and a wife and all of that goes with that, as well as parenting. And lots of times couples come in and one of the things that I do see happen with them, unfortunately, is they get so involved in raising their kids, which is not a bad thing. Not a bad thing at all. Kids are wonderful, and it's wonderful to have kids and put all of our passion and dreams and life into them. But what ends up happening is at the end of that, when they leave, you're often left with this like, well, now what? And it's funny because right now my dad is just hitting retirement and my mom is hitting retirement, and they're both kind of looking at each other like, well, now what do we do? And they'll figure it out. I have no doubt they'll figure it out. But a lot of couples also struggle with that same sort of sentiment. You know, you spend your whole life raising kids and putting each other first. And then when we retire, or when we're sort of left with just the two of us, whether you're empty nesters and not quite to retirement yet, or you're all the way to retirement, there are lots of things to consider in, how do we best spend time? How do we make life fulfilling? What do we do to kind of continue to make life good and find purpose and meaning? And all along those ways, whatever phase of life you're at, whether you're at the empty nesting phase or the retirement phase, or you're in the middle of 4 kids at home, young kids who are very demanding, it is really important to find some me time. Oftentimes people just feel like, well, that doesn't fit in to our schedule. That doesn't fit into, I don't have any time for that. And most of the time, what ends up happening is people start to prioritize that me time. They start to feel like they have actual more time for the relationship, more time for, family, more time for other things, because they have more energy. And so this isn't me time in this isn't licensed to go spend thousands of dollars shopping because this is my me time. Your me time and your time for yourself should be very, very planned out and should be something that is used to fulfill you. It shouldn't be something that drains you more. It should also not be something that you're doing to avoid or escape difficult conversations or issues in your relationship. If you find that you're using all this me time to escape all of those, then you may want to reconsider, potentially coming to therapy or finding a resource to help you work through those, because those activities then just become something that your partner often will use against you. They become, they foster a lot of distrust in the relationship. And so making sure that they're done in a way that really enhances the connection you have with your partner and the connection you have to yourself. Because the more you feel fulfilled in life, the happier you are, the better you're going to show up in the places where you're needed most. So I often use the analogy that, with my individual clients as well as my couples clients, that if you put 10 cents into a gas tank, probably not going to get very far before you're going to have to stop and refill that gas tank again. So making sure that your me time is really, really putting it in. Sometimes those 10 cents, those little deposits that we make into our bank account absolutely can help us get through the day, right? But it doesn't necessarily help get through this period of life or this week or this month or this season. And I'm also a very firm believer in seasons, right? What I do now as a young mom is probably, I hope, not what I do for myself when my kids are older. For example, I love running. I love being out in the mountains and trail running, but it is so really, really difficult for me to get out and do this right now. Not because I don't love it, but because my kids are at an age where one of them is still nursing and one of them is, needing me to take them to preschool and just all these different things. There's just so many things that they're needing me for. And so a season in my life right now, as much as I love running, it's a season that I can't run as much as I would like to. However, I find other things to do. I play soccer once a week. I do the things that still are engaging to me and bring me joy and help me feel like me, disconnect from mom time, wife time, but really just escape to friendships and joy and life. And so remembering life is in seasons and letting it, not being resentful that I can't go running today, but realizing that life is full of seasons, can sometimes help just manage that me time. And making sure that, again, going back to the deposits or the gas tank, making sure that those me times are really putting in the things that matter. They're really fulfilling. They're putting in $1 or $5 or $10, right? Like a girls' retreat weekend or a husband getaway or some time in the mountains or biking or doing those sort of things may be, happen once a quarter, and they may be your $25 deposits. And the, weekly running that you do, or the Friday night date nights that you have, may be that dollar that gets put in. So it just depends on every relationship and what's most fulfilling to you, but making sure that you are making the most of your me time. Having space to do your own thing is just so important, because at the end of that, we remember who we are. We remember why we are in this relationship, why our partner matters to us. Oftentimes I have a great group of girlfriends that we love doing adventures with, and probably about 4 or 5 times a year, I get to have the opportunity to go on some sort of retreat with them. Oftentimes we like being outside. So typically there's a skiing one. Typically there's like a Southern Utah, like Slot Canyons one. And sometimes it's a mountain biking one. There's various things that I like to do. And those are incredibly rewarding for me. And when I come back from those, I'm often a better partner. I'm finding myself more relaxed, more ready to take on the world. Not necessarily take on the world, but just more appreciative of my husband, more appreciative of my kids and my relationship with my kids and my husband. And so finding things that do that for you. It doesn't have to be big adventures. It could be a night doing a hobby. It could be finding a new talent. It could be going for a walk for 20 or 30 minutes. It could be watching a favorite TV show. It could be treating yourself to a spa day. It could be going to hear live music by yourself, or going to a movie or a museum, or it could be going shopping. And again, all of these things can be used to help give back to yourself. There's lots of things being out in nature. There is a ton of research out there that says, like, being out in nature, whether it be like, we're fortunate enough to live here in Utah and have great access to the mountains. Not everybody has that. And so even going for a walk outside on a path when it's a nice day outside, and you can get some vitamin D, and you can warm up, and or cool down, or just enjoying that. And as you're doing that, be mindful of what's around you. Put your phone away, notice the birds, notice the trees, notice the flowers, notice the trees, the plants, notice how your feet feel when they hit the sidewalk or Are you walking on grass? And how these different changes of ground may be affecting your body. The more you can connect with that outside nature, find a stream somewhere or running water. Running water is incredibly soothing. So sitting by it, finding a little stream, even if it's like in the middle of the city and you can hear the fountain going somewhere, or it's up in the mountains and you're completely by yourself. But making sure that you are spending that time for you, working on a puzzle, reading, any of those things can be things that you do, but make sure that you're setting aside time for yourself, so that you can do the things that you want to do. And it doesn't have to be every day. It doesn't have to be weekly. It is kind of determining the amount that you need. Some people might need it every day because they have really challenging kids or a really challenging relationship or something that's very stressful right now. The more stress that you increase, the more your cortisol increases. The more your cortisol increases, your adrenaline increases, your heart's pounding, you're just under stress a lot more. So the more stress that you're under, the more you really need time relaxing by yourself, not numbing out, not avoiding, but really connecting and grounding yourself to who you are. Goals, visions, dreams, envisionment of what life would be like, what you want life to be, how you want life, finding goals. Those sort of things can be really helpful in helping you determine what your me time really looks like. To speak a little bit more personally to this as well, my husband also is a lover of outdoors, and he often is found fishing, skiing, used to be biking, not so much anymore, but hopefully soon we can get back to biking and doing those sort of things. But just being outside, hunting, I don't have a husband for a couple months out of the year, and that's okay, because it's time that when he comes back from hunting, we are able to connect deeper. We do it together. We don't always do it together, but we like to and enjoy doing it together. There's things that he would rather not do, but he gets dragged into because of my projects or my hobbies or the things that I like to do. Something that I like to do that he's not necessarily super fond of is refinishing old furniture. Right now I'm in the middle of refinishing an old drift boat, have been for about 4 or 5 years, and it's a project. And it's something that I really enjoy and something that's a little more difficult for him to really enjoy, but he's willing to do it with me. And I don't always enjoy our hunting trips together, but for the most part, I love being outside, and so I find a way to enjoy it. If you have a partner that's like that maybe likes something that you aren't sure whether or not you really enjoy it or not, find a way, take a book, do something that you can do together and find a way to engage in it. Ask questions, get curious about your partner's habits, your partner's loves, their hobbies. You may not need to know how to rig up a fishing line, but you may be able to ask questions about the hatch or what's going on right now or how to tie a fly or whatever it might be. I'm using those from personal examples, but it could be gardening. It could be motorcycles. It could be horses. It could be running. It could be politics. It could be learning. It could be clothing. It could be, lots of people have various hobbies, but we don't need to know everything about everything. But our partner probably knows more about their hobby than you do. And so asking those questions, getting involved that way, and then respecting their time away from the relationship to do that, it can be incredibly helpful. It can be really helpful for you. It can be connecting experience for the relationship, but it also can be really, they feel seen and heard in that. And the more you do that for them, the more that they are likely to do that for you. Another kind of example with this is Biking. I like to bike, but I don't know much about biking. And so anytime I need a question answered or those sort of things, my husband's who I go to. It's like, how do I do this? And what would I need for this? And just asking those questions can be an engaging topic of conversation. It keeps us engaged in each other's lives and what's going on, and the things we really like to do. Do we do it often together? Not very often, especially at the phase of life that we're in. But again, hopefully it's something that down the road we can continue to use that to connect together. Another question I often get about kind of this me time is I feel selfish, or I feel guilty, or I feel like, my partner, I'm always doing it, but my partner never gets out, or my partner never gets a break, or my partner goes from work to school and I would encourage you to help your partner find time. If that's where your partner is, I would encourage you to help your partner find time, encourage them to, take their workout stuff with them after work so that they can swing by and get a good workout in before they come home. That you need to schedule that and say, hey, I need you home to help with kids or help with the runaround or whatever on Wednesday because I've got a Wednesday bunko night or a Wednesday soccer game, or I've got to spend a spa day, or I want to go shopping, or this is my time. And so making sure that you make it a priority. Oftentimes it is the last thing that happens in a relationship, and even individually. So one of the things I encourage clients to do is most people share a calendar of some sort, whether it be an actual physical calendar in which they're writing family events or obligations on, or whether it's an electronic version of something like a Google Calendar or an iCalendar or something like that. Schedule it, put it in, prioritize it, because you deserve to show up for yourself just as much as your partner deserves it, just as much as your kids deserve it. You will be a better wife, husband, father, partner, neighbor, friend, when you are able to give back to yourself. And a lot of us have a really hard time doing that because we feel very guilty. We feel like there's something else that we should be doing. And yes, there is something you could be doing, but not that you should be doing. Going back to the bank account, you can't keep taking deposits from the bank account if there's nothing in it. And people want you. People want to connect with you. They want to be in a relationship with you. And that is best done when you are in a solid place, when you are grounded, when you have recharged your batteries. And that happens most effectively when we are getting just me time. So whatever ways that you can do that to figure out how to best fit me time in. Yes, some people may have a hard time getting over that selfish fact. You may even be judged by friends, neighbors, family, in-laws. Why is she always going out? Why is he always going out? Why don't you guys ever spend time together? Obviously, making sure that you are spending time together is still very important. But the more you can give to yourself, the more you are going to have to give to others. Now, with that all being said, you also do have to make sure that you're finding a balance in that, and that it's not always you're always more of a priority than everyone else. But you get the gist, you get the spirit of it. In being able to give to yourself, you're able to give back more, tenfold to other people. I know that's true in my life. I know that's true in my relationship. And I see that in couples when they're able to sort of shift those priorities. I'm not sure. It was a while ago, probably 10, 15 years ago, when I had a couple come in that said that they found a news article from about 10 or 15 years before that was talking about prioritizing children, and how the more we prioritize our children, the better parents we are. And I think that's just where do we get our news from? Where do we get our kind of how we view society and all of that. It comes from newspaper articles and Facebook and Instagram. And we look at all of these things and all of these pressures that are telling us that we should be doing something else. And really we've got to let go of those shoulds and do what we feel is best. And sometimes that's very different than what society tells us it should be. And that's okay. So if you find yourself struggling, making yourself a priority, I would encourage you to this week, give yourself 20, 30 minutes and make it purposeful. Don't just zone out and scroll Facebook or Instagram or social media. Make it purposeful. Find a way to give back to yourself so that you feel more renewed, more energized, more full of life, so that when you come back to your family, your relationships, the people who really need you in your life, that you are able to give back to them what you really want to. Find something. There's a whole list. You Google it, find other ideas. Most of my ideas come from what I like to do in my own personal life, but there are lots out there, and find something to be able to get back to your relationship. Again, this is Chelsea with Cache Valley Counseling, and you are listening to The Puzzle of Us. And today we have discussed ways to kind of prioritize yourself and make me time meaningful and purposeful in your relationship and not selfish. So hopefully you enjoyed this, and we will see you next week.